An opening prayer, Pastor Larson praying. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
Yeah, well, I wasn't having. Oh, how do I get it?
I appreciate being asked to come tonight. I know that you all believe in the power of prayer, otherwise you wouldn't have decided to open your meetings with prayer. I think you would all agree with me that our country needs all the prayers we can possibly get in this troubled world. So I'm going to suggest tonight that we, rather than just myself offering a prayer, I'm going to grant you an opportunity in a moment of silent prayer in which you can offer up a prayer either for yourself or for those who are serving with you. You might lift up a prayer for our beloved Blissfield community, our country, the world at large. And then I will close us in prayer. So let us be in an attitude of prayer for a moment. Dear God, I thank you for hearing the prayers of each one that have been offered up to you now from the depths of their heart. Help them to receive the answer that you would give them, that they might be able to function in the servant role that they have in this community. Heavenly Father, God of wisdom, I pray that you would grant these servants the wisdom that they need to make the best decisions, a decision that is best for this community and that is also pleasing to you. In our world, we know there is much that divides us. There is corruption, violence, and fear on every side. Grant that we will seek truth, love, and peace. May this community of Blissfield be an example of how this world should function. We ask our prayers and anticipate the answers in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Thank you. You call the roll, Lisa.
Bob Valdez,
Here.
Glenn Newsom, here, James Whitson, Mike Gunner,
Here.
Jerry Hayes,
I'm here.
Barbara Henry, here, Timothy Wellers,
Present. On to the minutes, of June 13th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to recommend, I'll make a motion to move to approve the minutes of June the 13th, 2022 as presented.
Support. Moved and supported to approve the minutes of June 13th, 2022 as presented. Are there any questions or corrections? You can call the roll, Lisa.
Jerry,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. Minutes are approved. Presentations and communications. Move on to the agenda of June 27th, 2022.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the agenda as presented. You can call the roll, Lisa.
Mike,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes. Agenda is approved. Public comment, items on the agenda. We're moving on to unfinished business. I have received one of an evaluation for Danielle. I would like to see the rest of them as soon as you can.
Did you receive it? We may have to look at that PDF Word. We can try to send.
But by the 30th or at least before the next meeting. And next one is resolution deficit elimination plan.
council, you guys actually approved this already, but I didn't submit it to the Michigan Treasury yet. I had called and talked to Jeffrey, I apologize, I don't recall his last name. And he had indicated that they would not accept that it would have to show an actual budget showing that at the end of the year, we were no longer in a deficit. So I just added that part. I did have to work with the auditors because of the last time that this was approved, we had talked about how they had that deficit in the water fund for that sewer project because they still hadn't merged. So I wanted to make sure that I reported that accurately. So that part has been included with the auditor's help. And then once this is approved by you guys tonight, we'll get it submitted to the Treasury to be in compliance with our deficit elimination plan.
I'll move to approve the revised resolution identifying the village's deficit elimination plan and authorize submission of the resolution.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the revised resolution identifying the village's deficit elimination plan and authorize submission of the resolution to the Michigan Treasury. Any other comments or questions? Now you can call the roll, Lisa.
Tim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, the motion carried. Moving on to new business. Resolution budget amendment for retainage release aquatic center contractor, Midwest Contracting.
Okay, I will attempt to explain this and Phil is going to hopefully back me up here with this. So as you all know, we have been working on the aquatic center punch list since I started, and I think well before that as well. And Phil and I have met with the contractor and their attorney, and I did tons of research and pulled as many emails and files as I could and tried to compile everything that we had to catch us up, because when I first started, there was a lot of conversations about what had happened, and so we went through and tried to verify all of that. So I did create, and it's in the agenda for you guys, the aquatic center timeline, just because for me that helps kind of show the different steps that the village has taken and kind of how we got to this point. Of course, there's a lot of other stuff not included in that too. I could have spent days making a timeline, but tried to do the key points. But anyway, in our conversations with the contractor, they had agreed they said they would stand by their word that the roof was installed properly and that they would have an inspection. And I had provided the Owens Corning information showing that they denied the warranty claim. So they had worked with Owens Corning. It's been several months. Owens Corning would not come out to do an inspection. My understanding is that when there's the threat or the potential of litigation, that they pretty much at that point say, we're washing our hands, we're not getting involved in this. So they being Owens Corning, had recommended an inspection be done by a private party, not by, which ended up being Seagate, who did go perform an inspection of the roof, and their report is also included in the packet for you guys. So based on all of this information, the village really we have a couple options. We can release retainage that would be due to the contractor based on the inspection that we have. We can decide to go get a separate inspector to review it to see if that inspector would agree with the inspection report done by Seagate, or if they would find something else. And then the other thing is we could deny the retainage release, which I'm not going to guarantee, but most likely would result in litigation. And that's a quick summary, but if you guys have specific questions for myself or Phil, we will try to answer them.
How did we acquire the Seagate company to do the inspection?
Owens Corning recommended them, and Midwest did contact them to schedule it, and then we also had staff present for the inspection.
Jerry, it goes farther than that. Owens Corning made a corporate decision that when they believe a warranty issue may result in litigation, they selected Seagate Inspecting Services or Inspection or whatever it is to do all of those. It's not like they give you a choice.
So they're basically working for Owens Corning. In a way.
In a sense,
Who paid for the inspection?
We did not.
I don't know
That's
whether,
what I wondered.
I don't know whether it was the contractor or Owens Corning, but Seagate did it.
Yeah. That's good. Any other questions?
What are we doing about the rest of the ripples in the roof? Are they gonna be repaired or?
So they're, based on that inspection report, they're saying that it's aesthetics, that it's not, and it's from the time that it was, the roof was installed, which was winter time. So they're saying that there's no defect, those ripples will not cause the roof to leak, or there's no decking issues below that it's just appearance. So unless we wanted to re-roof the facility, they would stay, which again would be up to you guys and through the budget process.
That's the essence of what the report says, Tim. I don't think I could put it any cleaner or clearer than they did. But that's what they're saying.
But the report also said it wouldn't fully adhere at a certain temperature, and they installed that, but the temperature was below their minimum
They said that
threshold.
the ripples are the result of it having been laid at a temperature below their recommended range, which I thought was 40 to 90.
40 to 100.
Okay. And apparently the inspection was thorough enough to have gone back and researched the temperature on the day that the underlayment was put down. And it was colder than 40.
24 to 35. 24 low, 35 to 35.
I don't remember how long was that warranty for?
I wanna say was it 30,
It's 30.
because it was the
30 days.
maximum.
30 years.
Dave told me it was 50-year shingles.
I'm sorry.
Dave Copeland told me it was 50-year shingles.
That's what was specified. I'm not sure that's what
Because
was.
I asked him about it after the fact.
So the temperature, it has nothing to do with workmanship, it's just the temperature.
Correct. That's the essence of the inspection report. Whether our own inspector would find the same, would make the same conclusion, I don't know. But our own inspection would be at our expense. I assure you of that.
Well, even if we found it's defective, it is defective. By what we see, but if we
From a
found-
workmanship standpoint, yeah,
Yeah, it is. Even if we pay for an inspection and we find, yeah, it is workmanship, what do we do then?
withhold their retainage. And ultimately we get sued. I don't know how else to say it. That's what will happen.
Well, it's not right. But
Danielle, do we know how much an inspection would cost if we were to?
I don't. I actually was trying to find, get a price to be prepared for a council meeting, and I was having a hard time finding an inspector that would just do a roof inspection. Like, there's roofing companies, but they don't want to come and just do an inspection because that's not, insurance isn't for that and it doesn't cover them. And again, I think it scares some people off because there's the potential that there's litigation, and then they're gonna be called upon. So if that's the route you guys go, I would of course keep working on it, but at that time I just stopped to see what you guys wanted to do.
This is something we've discussed since the project's been finished. It's not like it's just coming up now. And we've discussed it with Dave Koppelman, we've discussed it through 3 different administrators. So there's been a lot of information, probably a lot of information that, like Daniel said, isn't included here. My concern is it gonna leak? And what are, again, if this was our own personal residence that we paid to have roof, we would want it done properly. And it is our job as stewards of the village, the residents, to protect the taxpayers' money. I don't want to pay to re-roof that thing in 10 or 15 years. So what happens if it does start to leak in those locations where it's not adhered, say 5 or 10 years down the line?
So we would have to file a warranty claim and reach out to the contractor and go through that process if it were to start leaking within that time frame.
And the second part of this is it's not just the roof. We've talked about fascia, we've talked about the soffit issues, we've talked about the type of metal used, we've talked about the amount of bird nests that have drawn crap up into the soffit, so we're not having the proper air ventilation. And that job wasn't completed by the contractors properly either. So I'm definitely not in favor of settling this yet.
We need to probably talk about that.
The soffit, that bid spec was actually changed, and I thought that was in the timeline that I provided to you guys that we approved. So they did, because initially it was supposed to be a metal roof. And then we changed to the shingles. And I apologize, I'm not a roof person, so I'm gonna tell you the best way I understand. But they had spec'd out soffit to go with the roof, and then when they did that, that would no longer work, so they had changed to the soffit they used and had that approved prior. My understanding is by the architect and the village. So that does technically comply, and I even provided that documentation. I was trying to look what page.
Well, sadly, we've pushed Dave Koppelman away from this project. I don't know what happened there, but he was the one that had concerns about the metal work, and I don't think he ever approved that.
I don't mean to be disagreeable, but one of Danielle said we had a meeting with these people. Mr. Koppelman was invited to participate, declined to do so. We did have his punch list though. And I was astounded that the contractor was able to provide documentary evidence in the form of letters and emails confirming that each one of those punch list items had been addressed and approved by us. Now, I wasn't here, I don't know, but I didn't expect that. They were able to do that.
I don't remember doing that either.
Well, I wasn't here, I don't know, but they had it and it was.
Did we get a copy of that by
Period.
any chance?
Pardon?
Did we get a copy?
So most all of that is in that timeline, and then I tried to reference the page it was
Okay,
attached
gotcha.
to. So I was just looking at that, like it talked, and this timeline's kind of confusing, because I tried to make sure that you could see like where I pulled that information, that I had documentation, it wasn't just something that I heard or made up. But it talks about the eaves, I think on page 8. And then it might be soon before that. I don't know. But I would agree with what Phil said. There was documentation and that's why I focused on the roof. For you guys, there was documentation on each of the other things showing that it had been approved by the village. In fact, to be fair, there's documentation that appears the village had approved everything, including the roof. And I don't think that was maybe the intention by the village, but there is an email where the contractor questioned the village if everything, including the roof, was good. And they received a response back from the village administrator at the time saying, I'm trying to find it here. I think it said like everything is good, or talk to DPW, everything's good, or something like that, approving the previous email that included the roof.
The last thing that we expected when we went into that meeting was to come away with the impression that the only remaining issue was the aesthetics of that roof. And they had a chapter and verse.
So my concern at this point, I do understand where the village is coming from, is that based on the documentation, I don't feel overly comfortable if we were to go to litigation, that we have a strong case. That being said, I do understand where council is coming from, and that's why I guess I would remind you guys that we have the option to try to get our own inspection performed on this roof, but understand that potentially the results come back the same. But that could give us, you know, I think some additional security that we did our due diligence to make sure that this was done properly. But again, it's ultimately up to you guys.
That would be a prerequisite for asserting a warranty claim.
How long has those ripples been on there?
Since day one.
I believe.
Since
that.
we approved it with that being like that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we approved the payment of the roof with it being like that. We approved, again, it appears we approved it, but
Someone did.
it's hard to say
Right.
exactly what happened, but yes, it definitely,
Those ripples were there the day we had the ribbon cutting. Because we all walked around them and looked at the building, and they were on there then.
and I think the ripples weren't notated in a punch list until December of 2019. And that roof was installed in January of 2019. But I'm not saying they weren't there day one either. It just wasn't ever notated prior to that.
I have a question. Yeah,
You get up to the podium, state your name.
my name is Carl Studnicka, 209 Sherman Street. With the warranty of this operation could ever be voided because of that installation was below normal temperatures of the product installed. Thank you.
I don't know anything about roofs either.
The warranty is valid. Oh, and I
Full
did,
warranty?
I'm sorry.
Would that be full warranty of the
I
number of
did
years?
speak with Owens Corning and filed all the paperwork to register the warranty, and they do have that submitted and provided documentation back to the village showing that it's under warranty. And they never indicated that there was any reason that the warranty would not be upheld.
Okay, thank you.
So we have to go back to them and then they say that, well, it was installed at the proper temperatures.
And
We
they
know
did,
that.
and that was their initial response, if you guys remember too, because I did submit a warranty claim with Owens Corning. And they did send that letter back to us, indicating that, and they referenced the installation.
Which falls back on Midwest.
Well, and Midwest followed up with Owens Corning on that, and Owens Corning backed away from their original determination about the validity of the warranty.
And then had the Seagate come do the inspection. It's very complicated. It's very hard for me because I wasn't here, so I literally have to go off the documents that I have and the people that were here that know, and documentation is everything. You know, it didn't happen if it's not documented kind of thing. So that's what I have to base my information off of. That's why it's coming to you guys now, because based off of that information, I do have some concerns about us moving forward.
Moving forward with,
With- And then going to
Inspection.
litigation.
yeah, because they have the evidence that we approved everything,
Correct.
so.
Midwest was the roofer? Or did they?
Yes, Midwest
Would they
was.
be willing to provide us with some sort of quote guarantee that if it does leak within the next specific amount of time, that they would come back and address it?
They did say they guarantee their own work.
And I do have that.
For how long?
They do not have a term. on
For the
it.
term of the roof?
I don't, yeah, I think they stand behind the product is what they said. And they are certified OC product installer. So I presume that they're bound by the same warranty that OC offers.
Preferred contractor.
Correct.
So in my opinion, I think we probably should pay it because we've approved everything. Rather than going to litigation, paying for the inspection.
Thinking it's gonna come back to this joint same thing. With their stating that about the leakage, you know, they'll stand by their warranty. Can we have something in writing for years or something? I mean, something that we can put into our files to document. We warranty this and we'll fix it up to 25 years or 20 years, get that magic number and put it into our files.
This is at least a 30-year roof and it might be a 50-year roof.
Well-
And they're obligated to stand behind it for that long. We have that in writing. We have their warranty.
We have their warranty,
They're not gonna give you anything more than
nothing
that.
more than that, okay, so the warranty is as good as we're gonna get.
It should be as good as it needs
Well,
to get.
it should be.
But Mike makes a good point, and Tim said it's not right. And if it was on my house, I'd feel the same way.
Exactly,
And if it was on your house, you'd feel that way.
Yes.
And when
and that's why I'm
they
saying,
installed the metal roof on the Cambridge Township Hall, and it's got wrinkles in every panel. It looks horrible, but it does what it's supposed to do.
And the warranty is on the last page, so it goes out to 50 years. But then there's little nuanced conditions before that too.
so we've got that documentation, so we can have it as proof. But
There's nothing that Midwest could do to correct that issue.
Short of replacing the roof.
Because it's the felt paper, it's not the shingles.
They use felt.
It's the underlayment, I don't know if it's.
Once it ripples, you push, I did shingles back in the seventies. Once it ripples, you put a shingle over there, your shingle's gonna rip.
Shingle ripples.
And Blissfield Lumber's told me they never had a warranty approved by OC, never, other than for color change. When Blissfield Lumber was a business, Dean told me that himself. He said they never got a warranty approved because they always find out it's insulation or it's ventilation or something, but they never got approved with OC.
All right, so what does council want to do with this? Sir, are we gonna take motion, vote, what do you want to do?
Did Todd take a look at this?
He did not this time, he did previously, when this all like back before I even started. And I do have that documentation in my file. And I believe his inspection report, and I could probably go pull it really quick, but I think it did say also that it was aesthetics and that the integrity of the roof was fine at that time.
Well, it chafes my you know what, because we've sat here meeting after meeting after meeting, talking about the pool project and the punch list items and the issues with the roof, and that never should have been approved by the village administrator back in the time, because whether we were talking about punch list items or the roof or whatever, we should have been clear that we weren't happy with that and we weren't paying for it at that time, and that the roof should never have been paid for. And that was my frustration of holding that retainage. And now we're exactly where we're at. We continue to do these large projects, and it just goes to show that we need a project coordinator, a project manager out there, and it sucks because we're gonna have to pay for it. Over how many projects, and we're continuously talking about punch list items and litigation and things not done properly. So again, projects here now, we're gonna have to fund that, and that's sad, but again, it's gonna protect the village. It's frustrating, it should have been paid. For some reason, you know, we lost Mr. Copeland's connection and his push to get things right. I don't know what happened there. But I'm extremely disappointed with the whole process. But if they're gonna warranty it, at least we'll come back to them, we'll have to fight it out in court 10 years down the line at least. So we do it now, we do it then. And once again, I seem to be repeating myself on this stuff, but like I say, we just move forward with it.
Is it page 31 of 57, Danielle, regarding that warranty we're talking about?
In your package.
Yeah.
It is, sorry, I had just the.
No, it's all right.
folder.
Because I've seen the material year 21 through 50. I'm just wondering if I'm understanding that correctly.
Yes.
Okay, so that's
is-
right in the middle of the paragraph that talks about that's the warranty that you and Phil are referring to.
Yes,
And so we've got the documentation.
So like Mike, I don't wanna vote yes, I don't wanna make a motion, but they have the emails saying we approved it. So they got us split it around.
But they will, if it leaks in 10 years with that, according to that warranty, they will repair it.
Can we, it's just against manufacturer defects, it's not from installation, correct? That warranty, did you look at that, Phil?
The manufacturer's warranty is what we have.
Right.
The installers, the contractor's warranty
So we've got.
is what they say. Letter that we have it in writing that they stand behind it here.
Okay, thank you.
That's really surprising, given the fact that it was installed at unrecommended temperatures too. I'm really shocked that they went back at that, which
I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of things about this that are a little bit disconcerting.
would this conclude everything in the pool end? The pool's paid off. This is the last of the retainage.
correct. If this is approved, then all the construction for the pool would be done at this point, and anything new would have to be budgeted through capital and budget.
All right, if we need some direction, we're gonna.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I just need some clarification. So on this thing that I'm seeing on page 31 out of 57, the to whom it may concern from the 1 Owens Corning Parkway. And when they're stating here, it gives 5 years of labor and material coverage against manufacturer defects. Then prorates on material only years 6 through 40. The non-residential system protection warranty gives 20 years of labor and material coverage against manufacturer defects. Then prorates on labor and material year 21 through 50. So this is what you're saying, this is what covers us. if there's leakage.
That covers you from the manufacturer, right?
That's just for the shingle itself.
That's just for the shingle itself.
The contractor guarantees their work.
Okay, so this is the shingle portion.
Guarantee is not the right word, warrants.
Warranties. Warranties.
There's a difference.
There is a difference.
Okay. So Danielle, your recommendation is approving the resolution, amending budget and authorize the retainage payment. Or excuse me, I read the wrong one, my apologies. Move to approve the resolution amending the budget and authorizing the retainage payment of the 36,000.
I would recommend either that or that you guys obtain another inspection. I think denying this and going to litigation is where I have the concern at this point, because again, I don't think we're on solid ground at this point.
Because of the signatures for the approval.
And the approvals, correct?
And then that's been verified. Over the bear.
But we don't know if we can find anybody to do a
And
unbiased
then we have to pay for that and potentially get the same results, but it is an option.
It is an
If we feel like we would get some other results. I mean, I don't know.
On the roof. I've done a lot of roofs. It's cosmetic, it won't work.
I try not to roof, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution amending the budget and authorizing the retainage payment of $36,967.28.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the resolution amending the budget and authorizing the retainage payment, $36,967.28. There's no more discussion, you can call the roll.
Jerry,
no.
Gwen? Yes. Mike?
No.
Barb? Yes. Tim?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes, the motion carried. Action item 2, approve change order number 13 for wastewater treatment plant improvements.
Before I make a motion, is this something that, or any of us do, I guess my question will be, what does Eagle say about extending the project timeline?
So we have extended to the ACO deadline at this time. The September 27th, as we talked about previously, is not enough time. The contractor, when we talked to Eagle last, was looking at the beginning of December. Since then have had additional delays in materials, so they're at the end of, I think, beginning of January of 2023. We have a meeting scheduled with Eagle on August, I think, 4th, to talk about an extension. At that time, hopefully just get one extension. And they have verbally indicated that they will support us in an extension as long as the project continues moving forward. And we're in kind of a weird spot right now because USDA, the project's supposed to be completed July 1, so we're supposed to be in substantial completion. So they don't want to release any additional loan payments until they see an extension of time. So this change order just kind of gets us to the end of the ACO so that we're not putting the cart in front of the horse with Eagle, but we're working with the contractor to ensure that we can continue submitting pay-ups to USDA for our loan payments. But again, understand there will be another time change order after we work with Eagle coming out.
With that, I'll move we approve change order number 13, extending contract time until September 27th, 2022, and authorize the village administrator to execute all documents related to the change order on behalf of the governing body.
I'll support.
Moved and supported to approve change order number 13, extending contract time until September 27, 2022. Authorize village administrator to execute all documents related to the change order on behalf of the governing body. You can call the roll.
Barb,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, motion carried. Action item 3, approve wastewater treatment plant upgrade payment.
Just another payment?
Yes, and the engineer has approved it, it is work completed. And now that we have the time extension, we can get this submitted to USDA. Yeah, we could have before too, but they'll actually,
I'll make a motion, move to approve the contract paid at number 15 in the amount of $469,568.74, and engineer's invoice in the amount of $11,113.23 for a total payment of $480,681.97 in connection with the Village of Blissfield WWTP project upgrade, and authorize the village administrator to execute all documents related to this payment.
support,
We have a motion and support. Can you call the roll on that motion as presented?
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, the motion carried. Action item 4, resolution authorizing the application for a special license for Wassel.
I'll move to approve the resolution authorizing the application for the special license for the Wassel event.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve resolution authorizing the application for special license for the Wassel event. You can call the roll, Lisa.
Mike,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tim,
No.
Gwen,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, motion carried. Move on to reports. Village attorney.
A long time ago, in a land far, far away, the village of Blissfield bought a generator for purposes of operating a lift pump at the intersection of Beagle Road and Quick Street, I think. That was in 2017, as I recall. It became apparent that that generator that was installed there had some difficulties. And Generac was contacted by the village. I'm not sure exactly, although I believe that at that time, both Mr. Riley and Mr. Wanacott were still in their position for the village. Generac was responsive. They offered to send out a service technician. The service technician was provided with information necessary to do the inspection of the equipment to see what the problem with it was. And for some unclear reason, I'll use that word, that inspection never happened. And the issue with that generator languished for a long time. That is in the nature of a warranty claim. warranty claims have a statute of limitations of, in the state of Michigan, that is, have a statute of 4 years, unless because notice of the difficulty or the defect was given, the statute of limitations tolls. That's kind of important. It's now 2022, 6 years or more, 5 years. Statute of limitations has expired. No action was taken from a legal standpoint against the manufacturer of the generator. The manufacturer, who was at one time very responsive, has now declined to participate in the conversation. So the options are pretty straightforward. Unless we believe that our notice to the manufacturer would toll the statute of the limitations and allow us to bring action on the warranty, we're not allowed. The statute of the assumption would be that the statute of limitations has expired and then we have no cause of action for breach of warranty.
They've never received anything, letters from,
Oh, no, they have, they sure have. They received telephone calls, they've received email messages, they've received letters, they've received all kinds of communications between not only the manufacturer, Generac, but the service technician that that Generac offered to send down here, and who, from a review of the file, actually did come down to the location that they were given, and it wasn't the location where the generator is actually located. It's an interesting read. And then there was some transition, and as I said, the claim languished, and here we are. We have a generator that doesn't work, a generator that we need, that we supplement with a rented one, or a backup, a mobile one. We don't even know, to be quite honest about it, what's wrong with that generator. It might be something as simple as a limiting switch, or just the replacement part. We don't know. And as I said, the manufacturer is not interested in having that discussion right now. I think they probably believe that the warranty has expired and that they're off the hook. That may be. I'm not gonna. I think a reasonable case could be made for the fact that they were on notice of the defect and that they are responsible for repairing it. And maybe if we got their attention, they'd offer to come out and fix it. Initially, my contacts with them, and it was already basically too late, very cordial. How can I help you? And then suddenly they were a ghost. Maybe what it takes is, a complaint filed, and the cost of the generator is what? The cost of the generator is budgeted at like $20,000. So it's a district court case. It's not even, it doesn't even meet the jurisdictional requirements of the circuit court.
I think I looked it up and we paid just under 11,000 for it in 2017. It was 10 something. I don't remember the exact amount. And then in an attempt to be somewhat prepared, I did budget money in this current fiscal year in the event that we could not get it resolved. for a new generator at. Let me double check really quick, sorry.
While you're looking at that, the customer representative from Generac is a lady by the name of Amanda Olivares. Very nice. My first contacts with her were very cordial. She seemed ready, willing, and able to assist. And then suddenly, as I said, she disappeared from view, dropped off the radar, so to speak. They won't return calls, they won't return emails. And I think that's probably due to the fact that she doesn't believe she has any responsibility.
And it's 20,000 in the current year budget.
So we paid 11,000 for this, for 2017. I'm just wondering how much money we spent in attorney fees, seriously, between Mr. Riley, Mr. Jubai, and now Shaver McCax to go ahead and try to get this resolved. Another very disheartening picture. With the timeline provided, Phil, with between all three attorneys, would we have a leg to stand on to show that the number of times that we have contacted that were done, starting, let's just say roughly 2017, 2018? Would there be a timeline to document that, proof to go, to have our leg to stand on?
There's documentation of the fact that the manufacturer was placed on notice of a problem with the generator.
But between all of the contacts that were, I mean, my understanding from Jeff Jubai is we were talking about suing them, and he was supposed to have some letter being sent stating that. I mean, that to me would be proof, sort of as the roof for us, this is our proof for them.
My impression when I received the file was that I would find in that file a complaint. Not only did I not find a complaint, when I inquired about whether such a complaint had been filed or not, I was informed that no such complaint had been filed.
When you say complaint, put it in.
Complaint for damages against Generac by the Village of Blissfield for breach of warranty.
So it was not done. You were not able to locate that at all.
It was not done.
That someone collected a check.
I have no idea.
I know, I understand, I'm being snarky. And I'll admit, stating that was done.
I'm sorry.
It was stated that was done to council. I know, I understand. Not by you, by another individual. It was stated, it was our understanding, I'm sure Council Jerry's nodding his head, that yes, it was stated that was what was done.
You get, state your name.
Lawrence Burke, 2526 Gibson Street. Well, my understanding, they put parts of that is either through Brett or Jan Luce, some kind of a plate or something like that. They put a part in and it failed. And I understand they put another one in, that failed. That should show in the records. So that tells me they were aware of it, they tried to fix it under warranty. So that should bring that warranty as good.
Meaning, say that again?
Or documentation.
They worked on it
Right.
during warranty, so they were notified that it didn't work. My understanding is either Brent or Jan Luce, so they put a plate in. I don't know what it was, I didn't see it. They said the first one failed, they put another one in, but that failed. Then all of a sudden you didn't hear anything from them. So I don't know if that's in the notes or not, but ask Brent. Brent should know. Brent was around at that time, I believe he was.
He was, yeah.
Ask Brent if he remembers parts putting in. It's either Brent or Jan Luce told me that.
He's right. He's absolutely right. 'Cause I remember, and I know we had people out there looking at it, and
Plus, we have the rental of this unit for what, 5 years?
It's
It's
not
just
ours,
a portable,
it's
it's
ours.
ours.
Oh, it's ours.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
so
just
we're
a
not renting.
portable backup generator. Yeah.
So it's not like Generac wasn't involved, they were involved. So they can't say they've never been notified, because they put 2 parts in. And if you can document those parts, you got them.
Would Brent have a file on that?
I did talk to Brent about this, and I do think, Lawrence, my understanding in talking to Brent is that they did replace something and it did break again. I don't know if it's 2 parts, that I can't tell you. And I also remember him saying there was a point where Generac had agreed to fix it or replace it, but we had to pay $300 for some part and we said no. So then that kind of backed him off at one point as well, but again, I can't say how many parts. But, and I don't think Phil is saying that Generac wasn't put on notice. They were put on notice if this wasn't working properly. And
Whether they
that,
were legally put on notice by our lawyers, maybe we got failed there.
In cases of warranty defect, when you tell a manufacturer this thing is broken, it doesn't work, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, that's all the notice they need. They don't have to have a notice from me.
Okay.
Or they could have a notice from you.
Yeah.
As far as that goes.
So they've had.
They're on notice.
They had notice, because otherwise they wouldn't have known to put the parts in.
And that's why I would suggest to you that if we really got their attention, they might be ready to come down here and fix this thing once and for all. I don't know. Maybe they're that kind of folks, you know. But that doesn't appear to be the way they approached the problem initially. I don't know what happened, but I know that they're not as enthusiastic now as they once were.
Well, it might have been a communication problem between whoever was handling the problem initially. You know, then it got out of hand and it went to the lawyers.
The next question is, so that thing doesn't run at all? Or just doesn't function as a generator like it should?
Well, if it doesn't function as a generator, it's broken.
yeah, I don't believe it'll stay running.
It won't stay running.
That's, I believe.
Bill, how do we get their attention?
In the usual way, with a 2x4. If you know what I mean,
I do.
okay? The same way you get the attention of a mule.
Well, from my understanding, we had a lawyer who was supposed to get their attention. I got sat in a lot of these meetings, and he was supposed to write a letter. We all know who we're talking about. And he said, well, the letter was faulty. My secretary did right, I gotta redo it. Well, he doesn't have a secretary that was stamped. And then it just kept going on and on and on and on, and never got it.
Okay, that's history.
No, that's
Well, that's
pertinent.
that's history, but it is pertinent because it adds it to the cost of the whole Generac, which obviously comes from everyone's pocketbook. And that's what's saddening about the whole thing.
Frustrating.
Disheartening.
So if I may, I think that we could give Phil, or you guys could give Phil some direction to send something that would potentially get their attention in the form of a 2x4, as Phil said.
We were just discussing that.
And then,
I'll purchase it. I'll pay the $35.
I'll go with a 4x8.
and then I
All
think
that works just as well.
we
We
could
get a police escort too.
have Phil report back to you guys following that so that we can determine how to move forward, because I also agree that Gwen made a good point too at the beginning, is we paid 11,000 and we spent how much, so at some point we need to decide how best to move forward. We
We
can't
need to get
fix
this
what
off our
happened in the
plate.
past, but
It's old, this is old, crazy, old news.
that would be my recommendation. It's up to you guys.
Do we need a motion to tell Phil to do this? Or just,
Give them direction.
No, just, I think so long as he has direction from you guys.
I would propose this strategy. We do have a contact person. Historically, she's been pretty receptive and responsive. My suggestion would be a letter with a draft of a complaint. And maybe that would provoke her to say, okay, look, I think it's gonna cost less to fix this thing than it is to litigate it.
And that'll be.
They're in Wisconsin, we're in Michigan. It can't be cheaper for them to go back and forth, maybe, I don't know.
We would have something in the file for sure, wouldn't we?
So we
We will certainly have something in the file, yes,
I say you move ahead with it, so.
absolutely.
very well.
Get their attention.
I have my, I'm gonna carve up my 2x4 post haste.
All right, then, do you have anything else?
3 probate funds.
The trust funds,
Oh, good question.
I actually, do you want to know later or you want me to? Because I did.
The trust funds, the petitions to set aside the trust funds have been prepared and signed. And Mr. Lacoste has been the lead on that. I'm not sure whether they've been filed, do you know?
He was gonna give me public notices this week, so that
Okay.
we could get them.
That has to be preceded by public notice of intent to set aside the trust funds. The basis for setting aside the trusts are that their purpose is futile, basically. That they don't earn enough income to justify their service on them, which is substantial, let alone to provide the funds for what they were intended to do. So that's in the works. That should be, once the notice period has lapsed, that should be pretty much a formality. I don't have anything else. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but in terms of substantive issues, that's all I have.
Any questions for our village attorney?
No, but I appreciate you being here this.
Privilege.
On to the administrator's report.
I don't have anything unless you guys have questions. But I would like to, just before you move on from reports, I do have a report from Todd that I'd like to share verbally.
Let's take a step back. Sorry, I'm not trying to drag this out, but this aquatic center, looking at the old emails.
Yes.
November 5th of 2020 from Joe Fry regarding completion of the project. Dave Koppelman sent Joe from Midwest Contracting a letter stating that regarding the caulk issue that was taken care of, that we split the costs on. So items 10 and 11, Architects for Midwest recommends the asphalt roof and related accessories in the Wells Mechanical Building be completely removed and replaced by a different roofing contractor. They estimated that cost of $18,500. Also inform them that they must remove and replace all pre-finished metal rake and fascia trim, including gutters and downspouts, according to the contract documents. We sent that, we passed that on. Again, another letter from Joe Fry, Wednesday, November 18th. Council voted unanimously to pay for the caulking, to request or require that items 10 and 11 remove and replace the roof to meet the specs with a full warranty, remove and replace all pre-finished metal rake and fascia trim, and 2 other things, the plumbing split, and the debris cleaned out of the soffit. So again, those things were not completed. Council voted unanimously to have that done. The recommendation and the agreement was that we would pay 15,000 some $15,717.28, and that was the recommendation of David Koppelman at the time. That would be after replacing the roof. So again, I'm sorry the communication broke down. I'm sorry we've been through 3 administrators and whatnot, but we let Midwest know what was expected of that project. So I still fail to see why they want the complete retainage.
And did you pull that from the packet, Mike?
Yeah,
What page? Sorry.
no, this is old. Council packet agenda, June 14th, 2021. And again, this is my frustration, you know, if we have to pay Dave Koppelman a little bit more to get his input, to get his feedback, by all means, if that's gonna save us in the end. We sent the letter to him that we would agree to $15,717. We should not close out that contract. So again, I'm not sure, you know, where the issue is, you know, the soffit wasn't right, the fascia wasn't right, whatever. It's got, you know, the ventilation, they can come back and say, well, the ventilation is not right because it's full of bird nests, which never got cleaned out of there, and that it does affect the ventilation. So the project was not completed per our architect's recommendations, per our discussion with our village attorney or our village administrator at the time.
When you guys made that motion though, back in May of 2020, the administrator sent an email to Midwest saying that the roof and all issues were good. So they had already said.
In May of
at that
2020.
point. Correct.
Well,
Because when did you say the motion by council was in June of 2021? So that's where I am a little bit confused too. So we had already, the administrator had already approved it at that point in an email.
well, that's why we held the retainage, and that's the punch list items. Those punch list items were specifically cut and dried, that we had these issues, these things needed to be correct. And if we have to fight for that retainage, so be it. But it's in black and white right here, what we expected to close that project on.
I don't think that argument's good. I understand 100%, Mike, where you're coming from.
The agreement was that roof should have been replaced, and that's the way I felt this entire project. And if it was implied, if it was written, if it was paid inappropriately or without our approval, because I know as a council, we were not happy with that roof and we did not want to pay for that roof. And we were told by whoever that retainage would protect us from that.
I do get your frustration and I don't even disagree with
If
you.
this was our own personal house, we'd be furious.
My thing is I want to protect the village and I don't want us to go to litigation and lose our butts because of this documentation and what information we do have. And I would like to, I mean, if Dave is willing to help us and work with us, I would love that. I mean, I can tell you that when I first started, he had submitted an invoice for payment, and I had looked back at the history and I was showing that we had paid him out actually a little bit over what the contract was. And I had told him at that time that if he felt like additional money was due to him, that we would have to bring it to council, because based off the information I had, he was paid out. And I told him at any point, if you want to bring that to council, let me know. And I didn't hear back from him after that. So.
And I get that, because we did pay him out. He was kind of going above and beyond at that end, kind of doing the checks and balances and the punch list.
And that's,
So,
I
yeah.
just didn't have because I wasn't here, so I didn't feel like I had the authority to say, yeah, let's pay this
Right.
without council saying,
Right.
yes, this is what he was supposed to do.
just makes us look incompetent in some ways, and that to me is frustrating because, you know, we've pushed through this, we've tried to make sure that we did the right thing, and to just continue settling for me, it's not okay with me.
I feel that too, because that phone call that when we first talked to Midwest, I will tell, I was embarrassed, and I agree, that's how I felt too, like we were incompetent, so I do get it, and I just don't know where we go from here. And again, it's hard because we have had that change, and I'm looking back at things that happened before. So again, I apologize we're in this situation. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to move forward.
What can we do? Rescind the motion and just fight it?
You can, yeah, I mean, you're in the same meeting, so you can reconsider a motion. I have it marked because I feel this has come up a few times. So you could reconsider, rescind a motion, it would have to have a second, and it would be back on the floor and debatable if you so choose. And then anything that passed would need a 2/3 majority vote.
And again, this is, you know, I don't want to spend more money on this same thing. This is what's frustrating. You know, it should have been done right in the first place. And again, why do we continue to get ourselves in this predicament? And that's what's ticking me off. And I'm sure it's ticking the citizens off because they continue seeing this happen. It's like people are walking all over us. And we're doing these projects. We need to have somebody right alongside these projects as we go, and somebody that knows what they're doing, oversee it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the village, like, we did take a step in the right direction with the wastewater treatment. We hired Hogemeyer to be our engineers, our project managers on that. And yes, that project has been frustrating and had its challenges too, but they have been on the same page as the village, and they have helped us to keep that project moving forward. And that's what we should do with all of those big projects. And again, it's additional cost up front, but it saves us in the long run. And that's what these people do, is they manage projects. That's their business. That's what they're experts in.
Wasn't that Mr. Copperwood's job? To be the project manager?
Yes.
I believe so, yes.
So we did do that. We did do the right thing. The village did at that time do the right thing. And it might be so simple with this, Mike, is this what we're saying? Is that in the beginning, unbeknownst to us, that Administrator Wanacott essentially, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. Administrator Wanacott went ahead and okayed everything initially. Then what you're saying, Mike, is the part with Joe Fry. Joe didn't realize it had been okayed, and the paperwork was already okayed. Joe didn't know that. That's why the discussion was being held with us. And now through all of the time that's been committed to researching this, now we're finding out how it really went down. Is that accurate?
To be fair though, I don't think it was Administrator Wanacott that approved it. It was Joe following. So
Okay.
Jim, based
That's what
on the
I'm looking for.
documents, Jim did approve the retainage to be reduced to 4%, which he felt was adequate for seeding in the spring, which is what's due now, the 36, whatever amount. And then Joe approved the project.
I mean, and Darwin is involved too, because you got Darwin emails in here regarding punch list items, so. I mean, I think Darwin's probably the one that closed whatever, you know, brought it up to just punch list items.
Okay,
So yeah, because Darwin would have presented to you guys in June, not Joe.
correct. Right. Okay. No, I appreciate that clarification. It's okay. That's important.
All right. Any other questions for Danielle?
I have a couple, Danielle, but I don't know if I should ask you now or if I should ask you during the section of council discussion. It's a matter, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just,
Well, so
you tell
the
me.
way it's the water treatment plant, report is there for us. We read it.
Oh, from Norris.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then,
I did talk.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about Todd.
I apologize, I didn't have it in the packet, but I did get an update from Todd on 132 South Monroe. He said that he did speak with Elliot last week, who said he was hoping to have the garage doors replaced in the next couple weeks. He has had weeds around the house removed, and he is in the process of working on the interior and still trying to find a framing contractor to do repairs to the damaged floor.
So progress is,
Yes,
he's fulfilling his commitment.
yes, he is making progress. And again, I apologize, that wasn't in your packet, it came a little bit after. I had left for
The
you.
comment on your report here that I wanted to make was regarding the building planning and code enforcement. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there, Danielle? 'Cause I appreciate seeing the numbers, the stats regarding completed, open, pending, things like that with the violations.
Yeah, I think Holly used to provide you guys, like a building permit report every month. And to be fair, I'm not entirely sure how she pulled that in the building department, and I'm not tried super hard. So I just added it to mine. Right now, the front office is covering that. I am doing, Brandon and I are doing the permits. And then Lisa and I are doing the code violations. So I put in there because I wanted to see that you guys to be able to see that we are making progress and we are getting a lot of complaints and code violations. So the completed, those are violations that have been sent out and the people have complied. The pending is those violations, or the in progress are violations that have been notified but not yet closed out or completed, because they do have a certain time frame to comply. And then the pending are violations we've received, but we've not yet put on notice, because we always go get photos and then send out the letter to document that we did witness the violation and it is in fact a violation to the ordinance. But until the new person we are able to fill that position, I figured I would just include that in my report, and then when they get started, I'll have them do something or pull those reports from the building department program, which won't do the code enforcement one, so we could keep doing something similar. And then we did try to establish, we've got a pretty good process, so hopefully when they get started, we've got some folders with dates, so they can keep track of when the letter goes out and when it has to be followed up on.
Regarding that, what has been the process for the hiring of the person? What's been the process? I know that you guys had your interviews, but can you kind of start from the beginning and where we are and where we're going? Because I know my understanding was we were hoping to have someone to counsel tonight, but that's not. But initially it was on the 27th.
Yeah, I was hoping to have it on the agenda tonight. So we posted the position, it closed, we received 8 applicants. We interviewed 6 of those applicants last Thursday. And I was hopeful to be able to bring a recommendation to you guys tonight. We had really good interviews, and at this point, I will be working to schedule secondary interviews with 3 of the individuals. And then my goal is to have the recommendation to you guys at the July 11th meeting.
And I noticed that you didn't supply us with any names. Is there any particular reason that you didn't supply us with any of the names in your minutes or your weekly summary for us?
Yes, so moving forward and when any job is open, I do think that I would like to, unless I get direction differently from you guys, I would like to keep those interviews or those applicants confidential.
Good.
And the reason I want to do that is not because I don't want to share with you guys or the public, but because I want to ensure that each of the applicants is getting a fair shot when they do the interview, and that we don't have staff or council members who have predetermined biases or thoughts about who would be the best fit. I want to interview and say, okay, this person is the most qualified best fit for this position, without, well, I know this person or that person, and kind of at least attempt to eliminate that.
Okay, so there was a method to the madness when you didn't supply those names and you didn't want that information shared.
Correct, yes,
Curious on that.
yes.
Thank you.
Going back to code violations, have we had any update on the property on Beagle Road?
It's mowed. We actually did have to pay somebody to do that, so it'll be, there's been a bill provided. The county did take it over through tax, past due taxes or delinquent taxes. We gave them 30 days to comply, to tell us how they were going to at least secure the property and or either remodel, demo, whatever their plans were. And I've got that set. I don't recall the date, but it is, I think it's the first week or two of July. I'd have to look in my folder to tell you the date, but we have made progress, and there was a lot of trash in the yard too that had to be pulled to the side to mow around and yes. Yeah. But we are working on it.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure how responsive the county will be because they kind of got it handed to them, so.
Can you tell us, again, going back to your report here, the background checks? There was something
Yes.
they mentioned to us in our summaries as well.
And thank you, Gwen. I have to apologize to you guys because I wanted to bring this up at the last meeting and then I just completely spaced it. A few meetings back now, must have been, I think, the 13th, I don't remember. You guys had not made a motion on the background checks for the two individuals that I was not able to find backgrounds for. And since that time I did, and I provided in my weekly summary, but I did want to let you guys know that we have completed background checks on the two individuals in the office. And we ran them as we have with the employees that we've hired since I've been here. Since we don't have a background check policy at this time and nothing was found on either individual. And then Chief actually did find a really good background check policy that the Michigan State Police had. So I am working to get that set up to work for the village of Blissfield, and that'll be an addendum within our new personnel policy that we're still working on. So at this point, I believe the areas of concern or the two individuals that didn't have one, we're good there, and then we'll continue as we are until that new policy is adopted and approved.
Would it be, well, I'd like to state those individuals' names if that would be appropriate. I don't want it to be inappropriate simply because I believe it was in the newspaper. And I think that those people should be, have that same opportunity to know that their background checks came back clear, which would be Brandon Hudson and Lisa Novak. Correct. I think that should be noted very clearly because I just do. Another question for your information here. Transition of our DDA Main Street manager. How are things going with our friend Laura, and the transition for our new Parks and Rec program director? How are things going there? With the pool in particular, because that, since the pool is a hot topic.
Yes. So I'll start with Laura since that's who you named first. So Laura's doing very well. She has kind of jumped right into things, and it's been definitely crazy in the DDA world. So they're working on their TIF renewal. I mean, as you guys all know, we're jumping right into budget. So she's been working on budget quite a bit. She's been getting out and talking to a lot of the businesses. She's been working on the events. I mean, she's just running with it, and she's been really good. And we try to help her as much as we can, but thankfully she just goes after it. So we appreciate that. And then Eric with the Parks and Rec department, he and I did meet two weeks ago now, I believe, or almost 2 weeks ago. And we went over quite a few things. A majority of it was probably the pool. He did go out there this Saturday. He had picked up stuff for concessions. And then I haven't been out there. I'll actually go out tomorrow morning to help open, but he had set up some new shelves and rearranged how concessions are going. And then he and I talked about some other things, like getting the softball registrations out,
The rec card.
the soccer, fall soccer, football, registrations out, and I've not got those or talked to him about where we're at. I'm not sure where he's at on those. And then I had also talked to him about, I had set up a summer camp, day camp, and I had worked with the center on a schedule. What I think would be really cool and what I thought would be successful is doing a week-long camp. But this year we were gonna try to do a day camp and see what kind of feedback and participation we got. So I provided him the registration and all the information for that and told him he just needs to confirm the date and finalize scheduling and we could get that out, and I have not heard back on that yet either.
Is he gonna be spending designated time out to the pool then? I know we have our managers, of course, but I'm just curious,
I do not know.
because you shouldn't be going out to the pool anymore, not at all.
Only to swim.
Exactly, so you should, I mean, your duties at that pool should be done,
Yes.
in my opinion.
So I am going to, one of our managers is on a trip to another country for the next couple of weeks. And Brian and Amanda are teachers at the school and they both do summer school. So this week I am opening from 10:30 to 11:30 because they get out of summer school at 11:30. And then they're coming straight over to take over at that time. And I'll just have my laptop out there and work on a few things. Because the lifeguards have been doing wonderful, so they'll set everything up and,
You mentioned that in the summary there as well.
yeah, and that, yeah, I've gotten so many compliments on the lifeguards, which I know is kind of a side note, but
No,
I
that's
have
good
to
to hear.
throw it out there, they've been rock stars. And the managers all, but
But you should be going to get supplies, checking on the schedule, looking at chemicals. None of that stuff should be part of your duties any longer.
correct, and I did, when I had met with Eric, I told him that it was stuff he needed to get the supplies and check in out there to make sure that they had what they needed. And we do a report to public health. I did tell him I would finish June so that he could see what that format was and the information that needed to be provided, and then he needs to take that over as well.
And then he'll be providing our report for us, as Laura will be as well.
Correct, yes.
Okay, cool. And then the last thing is, I don't know who's doing the digital signage at Ellis Park, but it's awesome, it's timely, and the pictures look great.
That is Lisa, so.
Hey, nice job there, girlfriend. You look very nice.
I won't tell you, I totally deleted everything.
Yes.
It's
okay.
It's fine.
You put it-
I learned,
it's good.
I learned a new thing.
It looks very nice, it does, I didn't know who was handling it, so nice work on that.
It does look really good with the
It does.
pictures and the different colors.
Yeah, it does look so.
Good.
Thank you.
Anything else? We're gonna move on to public comment items not on the agenda.
I do have a citizen's comment that was emailed to me. They weren't able to attend tonight, that I would like to share, but I don't want to jump in front of anybody if there was other.
All right,
So there's two comments. I'm gonna read them, just as they were sent to me. First, I understand there is talk about the village funding a school resource officer. Already 37% of our village general fund budget goes to policing. That is a big percentage. What happened in how do you say it? Uvalde was a tragedy, another terrible tragedy in long line of school shootings and mass shootings in America. Before the village considers adding a school resource officer or stationing an officer at the schools, I ask that you first review what research and data shows can keep kids safe at school, the unintended consequences having an officer in the schools, and the lack of funding for additional mental health supports. We need to make decisions based on data, not assumptions and feelings. Second, I would like to hear from the council and the village on the embezzlement charges. Just a general update would be appreciated and seems appropriate as the village did pay for those audits. But also specifically, I want to better understand Chief Greenleaf's apology earlier this year for listening in on a closed session and then sharing that information with the staff person. I want to know, is that staff person the same person that is now charged? Because to me, sharing info with a coworker is a lot different than sharing info with a suspect / potential suspect. Thank you, Emily Mullins, Blissfield resident. Further, I would like to respond to these if that's okay with you guys. And then I would also like to respond what I tell you guys to her in writing, and then it'll be in the minutes too, but. So the first item at this time, the Village of Blissfield has committed to establishing a committee to meet about the potential for a school resource officer and have to assume the school district has researched that we will discuss these items at a committee meeting, which has not yet been held. The second item regarding the criminal charges against a previous village employee, the village does not know any more than the general public. The investigative information is with the Lenawee County Prosecutor's Office and questions would have to be directed to them. As far as Chief Greenleaf goes, that issue was resolved in the best interest of all and no further comment will be made. That is all I have. That's a lot.
She was also the citizen that made the comment that Parks made the village safe, correct, over the police department. So I mean, I take that with a little bit of bias.
I'm sorry.
In a previous council meeting, she implied literally that a park made the village safe over the police department safety. That's my response to the first point there. Yeah, and secondly, yes, we did create a committee to discuss that with the school, the feasibility, and we'll discuss obviously the funding mechanisms, and she does have a point that the police does take up a large portion of the village budget, but it's also a needed portion of the village budget for the safety. I think the residents expect that. So it's not that we're just going to, hand the school something on the village's dime. Obviously, that discussion is forthcoming. Yeah, I think you're fine on the second question.
The only comment that I would have is, Mike, I understand that you had talking to Tim a little bit earlier. When you guys have your meeting, I had asked, I apologize, the superintendent's name? Scott Riley. Thank you very much, Mr. Riley. I don't know, I can't speak. I know I teach at Bedford, which is obviously a larger district. We do have DARE officers and we do have the DARE program. That would be something I would have you guys perhaps ask the school. I don't know what it entails as far as if it's who pays for that, whether it's a village or if it's the Lenawee County. But the DARE officer does appear in the building once a week as a guarantee for teaching classes about bullying, substance abuse, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing is, and again, I don't know how Blissfield does it. I know they were not able to address it because you guys don't have it here, is a liaison officer. And of course, again, I'm a bigger district, I understand that. We do have the liaison officers, and I'm not sure how they are paid for, but those are some things that I just thought I'd share with you guys to ask those questions about the DARE officer in
So
particular.
the DARE program is expanded more off just the drug enforcement.
Oh, yes, it is definitely, it talks about the whole cyber and with the digital presence. And they also go ahead, and I know that the DARE officer will go into the classrooms with the little people, the little kids, and he would read books to the kids and get that relationship that you guys were referring to, I know, with Officer Curry, when I say that friend. Okay, so that was what the DARE officer is able to do in our district, and that would be just something I would suggest for you guys as well.
Do you know how it's funded, or you
I don't, in fact, I got a note to myself to connect with Randy Krupp, Deputy Krupp is my guy. So I will connect with him and see how they are financed. I honestly don't know. Okay.
I understand federal government might be funding some of that now too. I read somewhere for safety officers. So you might just wait a little bit and see what the federal government does, you might get some.
There is talk about that as well.
Yes.
Correct. I know that's one of the discussions happening in our district as well.
And I think that was Mr. Riley's hope too. He had indicated at that meeting that he was hopeful that the state of Michigan Department of Education was going to do something to be more proactive as well. And I think really, and I said this to council, school district and the village work well on a lot of things together. And they didn't ask, all they asked for us to do was commit to have a conversation.
Have a discussion.
And I think at very minimum, that's something that the village can easily commit to and get that information and do some fact finding and research and see what's going to be the best fit.
It starts the conversation.
Correct, yes.
I saw in your report, seeing that 3-on-3 tournament is having a dunk tank fundraiser. And you had asked for some of us to be in that tank.
I would love to have volunteers.
I'm in there.
I will tell you, I am volunteering as well, so you can come down to the 3-on-3 and dunk me if you so choose. Employees, be nice. And I have secured a business to sponsor me, so whatever money I make, they will match. So I was hoping that council would be willing to do the same. And then if you wanna have a friendly competition on who makes the most, we can do that too.
All right.
And I think I convinced Brandon to do it too.
So I have a sponsor.
Taylor and
as well.
Lacoste is available to match. Whichever one y'all volunteers, we're in for it.
I have a couple other, three other items that I think. Well, that wasn't part of just Danielle's thing. Okay, sorry, here we go. Hey, let's talk about, here's something else. These are three things that, one of them was on Danielle's from the Project Phoenix. I know that there's been a lot of talk about the Project Phoenix, wrong thing, not Project Phoenix, Lenawee Now, excuse me, with Lenawee Now. And that was one of the comments that you had asked us about, Danielle, is if we wanted to have that discussion now, put it on the agenda, or wait until our time is due. And I didn't know, I've been reading it obviously in the paper with the different communities and their thoughts on it. And I didn't know if we had a thought on that, so I'm just bringing it up to council, whether we want to discuss it sooner, later. I don't even know when our time frame is for it to be due.
I'd have to look too, I'm not sure either.
I just thought I'd bring it up for discussion. But if nobody wants to discuss it, then I guess we wait.
I mean, you've got a meeting with an individual from there, right? From Lenawee Now.
I actually communicate with Lenawee Now regularly. Tim has, when I first started, I met with Tim and Jim. And actually Heather helped get that set up. So her and I had lunch with them here in Blissfield and just talked about what Lenawee Now does for the village and can do and some of the different funding things. And since then, my communication with Jim Van Dorn has been pretty limited to none, but Tim Robinson has been very helpful. He actually helped with one of our grant applications. He helped when we did the ARPA funding request to the county. He emails now Laura and I both probably, I'm gonna say minimum twice a week with different requests for proposals on properties. He showed Blissfield manufacturing site that I know of 4 times and has been working with Pat on that location. So I do know, and we can talk about this more too if you guys want, but I think our fees, I wanna say are like $5,000 a year. And I think we're getting that. And I know some other communities, I need to come see, it's been in the news. I think they pay an annual fee of like $15,000, which is a little bit more. And I'm not sure what their experience has been, but I can tell you ours has been good, at least since I've been with the village. And I do think that for the amount we're paying, there is some benefit there. And the other thing too is if we have a property or a request for proposal we want to submit, we can email Tim and just say, hey, submit our information, and he'll do all of it for us so that Laura and I don't have to, and that helps immensely.
Okay, good. That answers what I was looking for then. Thank you. The next one is, and I'm not sure what we can do about this, and I'm just bringing this up for council for thought, throwing something out there on the table. The office, your office, with yourself, Brandon, and with Lisa, are gonna be working essentially 2 months by the time someone is hired as a replacement in the office as receptionist, zoning administrator. And I didn't know if there's any kind of a compensation that we can do. Is this, I mean, we're not talking like a 2-week stint, we are talking a 2-month stint. And I think that that's an awful lot, and I'm assuming that your hours are beyond the quote, quote, 40 regular hours, if you will. And I'm just curious of, is there anything that council we can do, not do legally? I don't want to say the word illegally, so. But I'm just curious, is that something that can even be thought of? Can you get an extra day off or a day, paid day off or something?
I don't wanna speak for the employees.
I don't know.
We would love to take anything you'd be willing to give. The challenge with the day off would be getting the day off.
It wouldn't be able to.
Because unfortunately, if we take time off right now, we pay for that.
Exactly. And I don't know, there's never a good day for day. I understand. I'm just, I know I'm repeating, but it'll be 2 months worth of extra duties on all of your plates. And it is certainly appreciated. I mean, I know when I come in to do my visits with you, Danielle, there's always people at the counter. You guys are having to answer the phones, doing the extra duties. I don't know what council might think of that.
My other, just again, I don't wanna, I'm gonna kick myself for saying this. I don't wanna set an unfair precedent to the other
I
employees.
understand.
Because our policy does allow for a $2 an hour differential pay when you take on a supervisor's responsibility. But this isn't a supervisory position that we've taken on the duties for.
No, but you are taking on duties. And again, it's not a 2-weeker. We're talking a 2-monther.
And again, I'm not gonna say no, because
You guys, I mean, do you have any thought, maybe, I don't even know what a compensation could be.
You're in bonus. But I don't know if that's in policy either.
I don't know. I don't have any answer. I'm just throwing something out there to say big thank you.
yeah, I don't know that it could be a bonus.
Buy you lunch?
I mean.
I don't know. I don't know.
You are in one of the most sensitive areas
Is it?
in the regulation of municipalities, Joanna, and
See, I don't know that.
and that's why I'm
pretty
saying,
obvious. Okay,
this is a touchy subject.
is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything that a luncheon or something like that as a thank you, that's doable, that's allowable?
Strictly speaking,
Yes,
no.
okay. No, I want to know.
It's like, no, in like the rules for permissible, easy for you to say, permissible, municipal expenditures are very strict and very limited. And
Okay.
if you get sideways with the Department of Treasury,
Okay,
you gotta be careful,
okay,
that's all I'm saying.
okay. We could,
I think you could though do like a temporary change in pay rates for the additional duties while they're assigned. But if you do that, then I would recommend that that be something that we put in the policy moving forward to be fair to anybody. So
yes,
let's say, I mean, we're kind of covered with that $2 for the supervisor, but let's say that Lisa takes on the responsibilities in the future of Brandon. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna pick on you guys. That we could, for that time, say, okay, Lisa, in that position, we would give her an additional 50 cents an hour or whatever to cover that pay for the extra duties she's doing. But once that position's filled, that her pay would revert back to what it was prior to that. And I'm throwing out hypotheticals, mind you. And if that were the case, then I think you would need to work within that already appropriated salary that's been funded for that position. So again, if the salary's $3,000 a year, you're not gonna budget an increase that's $6,000 a
I
year.
understand.
it's not a motion.
Okay. Okay, but obviously I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
Anything else?
Yes.
Good.
The last one is this, aquatic center. Will our pool always be called the aquatic center, or will we have a Blissfield pool name versus aquatic center? And why is it called the aquatic center?
Splash pad and pool.
Is that why? Okay.
I have no idea.
No,
I think it's been the
So,
Blissfield Aquatic Center since I've started.
Okay, I know it has, and I was just curious if, why it was called the aquatic center. Someone asked me, and I said, you know what? Why do we call it Blissfield Pool? I said, I don't know.
You can call it the Oasis because it's out there in
Middle of sand.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Sugar Bowl. Sugar factory, well, Sugar Bowl.
That's my last comment.
Let's go.
I have a question, but I don't understand that. Where's the plaque from the old pool?
I believe DPW has it,
Okay, do we want to do something like that? You can put it inside or
because we did check on that when I first started.
something. On it inside the building?
Have something there.
Yeah.
But would it go to the new pool still, or would it stay on whatever we decide to do in?
There's nothing to but it's much thinner. Maybe you can do something before and after. The old pool, the new pool, some history or.
There was talk about
Something
this
on the
historical
wall.
section on the wall or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you had pictures of the old sugar factory, the process, but that's where this is located. Then take that plaque, the old pool, say this is the history of the old pool, and there's just a little history of where everything started, where it is. Not necessarily the old.
Right.
Well, because it's not, but yeah.
But have some history there.
Yeah.
It's something.
That and a picture of the old pool. Well, there's a lot of old pictures of the pool when it was full and, and that, some older pictures, and then maybe some new pictures with kids or, before
There's probably pictures you
and
would
now
pull.
or whatever.
We could bring, I think bringing that up to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board would be good. Because we've been really trying to get them more involved and so maybe seeing what ideas or thoughts they have. And
People that come from
recommendations.
out of town or whatever, they might be interested in something like that.
That's good, yeah, Parks.
Yeah.
We have the design committee help with that too, just to keep the design the same as. And we've done research on plaques and stuff like that too.
Absolutely.
All right, with that being said, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moving second to adjourn the meeting. Call the roll.
Barb? Yes. Tim?
Yes.
Gwen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes. Meeting's adjourned.
Want to find out lunch?